I'm Jamie Hooper with Remax Crest and jamiehooper.com, and today we're going to talk about the 2019 real estate market and summarize it and where we are now, and we're also going to look ahead to 2020. So 2019 was an unusual year for the Greater Vancouver real estate market. Typically and when I say unusual year, I mean the business patterns were unusual. Normally the busiest time of year in real estate is the spring market, and as realtors we call the spring market any time between the middle of February and towards the end of May would be the busiest time of year. You'll see the most properties listed for sale at this time, but you'll also see the most buyers out there at that time. Then it'll slow down a little bit for the summertime. June, July, and August are a little quieter because the weather's usually not that great around here, and when it is, people want to get out there and do other things. Typically in those months, you'll just see the people that are forced to move for some reason, just for death, divorce, job transfer, something that has affected their world to make them move. After Labor Day, the market typically comes back, and September, October, and November are three pretty strong months. Then it'll slow down for December, January, and probably the first half of February. So that's the typical business, or I should say the typical market patterns around Greater Vancouver during the course of the year. But last year was completely different. The first 4 months of the year, January through April, were incredibly slow. They were some of the slowest months that the market has seen over the last decade. And then by mid-year in May, the market started to flatten out. And for the last 7 months, we've seen unusually busy market conditions. It was busier in the summer than normal. December was 88% higher, meaning 88% more sales than December of 2019. So we had an irregular pattern to business all year long. So how did this affect prices? What did it do? Well, over the last 12 months in 2019, and this is for all of the Greater Vancouver real estate market in general, some markets were affected more by this and some were affected less by this. So for a detached house, the value on average for the benchmark price is 2.7% lower than it was a year ago. For a townhome or a half duplex, it's 2.4% lower, and for a condo, 2.6% lower. So a slight decrease in the values of the home over the last 12 months. Now that the market it seems to have leveled off, what typically happens is there's a bunch of inventory that's on the market. The prices don't go up right away. So inventory's been leveling out over the last 5 or 6 months, and they're as low as they've been for 12 to 18 months. So what we're going to see now, if this continues on, is less inventory and more sales. If that continues for an extended period of time, that's when we'll see the market start to trend upwards and prices start to rise. So that's where we were and how we got here in 2019. So let's talk a little bit about what may happen in 2020. I am not making predictions here because I am not qualified to make predictions. Even the people that are, the economists, some of them have been calling for a bubble market for over a decade now, and we've yet to see the market implode like people have spoken about. We see prices off 10% on average, and some of the very high ends of the market, like the detached homes on the west side, they would have experienced the greatest decrease at 20%. That's not a bubble market that imploded. That's just a market softening and correcting itself. So I'm not saying that still couldn't happen, but to this point, all of the doom prognosticators have not been true. So let's talk about some of the things that may affect the market in a positive fashion this year. There's talk of easing of the stress test, either lowering it from 2% to 1%, there's also talk of it being abolished completely. Sorry about that, I had a little brain freeze. Pent-up demand. There's been a lot of people waiting for the market to bottom out here. And if they think the market's bottomed out, a lot of these people that have been sitting on the sidelines for 18, 24, 36 months could jump back into the market all at once. There's still political unrest in Hong Kong, and don't forget that 300,000 Hong Kong citizens have Canadian passports, and if they came back into the market and bought properties, they don't have to pay the foreign buyer's tax. So those are all things that could have a positive effect on the market. The negative things that could happen: rising interest rates. If interest rates went up a point or so, that would obviously have a negative impact on the market. The average Canadian debt load per person is at the highest it's always been. And the other thing that we read more and more about is people calling for a recession. The economy has been good for a pretty long time here, and everything is cyclical. So going back to what else we may see, so the last 7 months, as I mentioned earlier, were the busiest months we've seen in real estate for about the past 18 to 24 months. Early indications are that we're going to have a quick start to the year. So unless something externally slows it down for some reason, 2020 for the start looks like it's going to be a heck of a lot busier than it was last year in the spring market. So if you get any value out of these videos, or if you enjoy them, please click the like or thumbs up button. Make a comment down below, good or bad. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and we look forward to the opportunity of speaking with you again soon.